Good evening, everybody. This is A.L. Johnson with Elevating Men. I want to thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining us. We're going to have another great conversation surrounding men's mental health because that's what we're all about here. I've got my brothers with me, of course, AB, Dinner and Dialogue. To my right, below him, you have Lojo, the Car Pro, or Lojo Speaks, whatever you want to call him, Vice President of Elevating Men. And we also have the Fit Pastor, Mike Patton. And so we appreciate you tuning in. We're going to wait for a few people to get in because this conversation is extremely important. And we want to make sure that the message gets to the people who need it the most. And so while we're waiting on those people to come in, I'm going to make a few announcements really quick. Tomorrow at 7 a.m., we're going to be with Black Kansas City Magazine and Kareem Jackson. We're going to be talking to the people at We Development Credit Union. It's a new credit union open here in the community whose whole purpose is to bring banking to the inner city and to the urban core. And so we definitely want to support that. Also, Wednesday at 8 a.m., I'm extremely excited. Going to be on the Men's Wellness Collective podcast. If you've been watching us for any time, they're the group of therapists that we've had on our show before. They're reciprocating and having us on, and that's going to air on all of your streaming platforms and podcasting platforms on Friday. And so I'll be looking out for that. We'll make sure that we make the announcement, have the link for you so that you can check out that show because it's going to be really good. Also, Tuesday, February 7th, we'll be on 107.3 with Darren Story, talking about the purpose of elevating men and why we're here doing what we do. And last but not least, on February 25th, we'll be at the Oasis Church for the Man Cave Prayer Breakfast. And so it'll be a group of men getting together, having these hard conversations surrounding mental health. And it's going to be a great time. And so definitely be looking out for that. It is free to the public. So we're not charging anything for that. We just want to make sure that you're there so that you can be poured into. Also, make sure that you visit elevatingmen.com. If you go to elevatingmen.com, you'll be able to catch up on some of our past shows and also donate. We are a 501c3 organization. And so we are seeking donations so that we can further our mission and continue to bring things not only online, but also in person, because we definitely want to do more of that in 2023. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar, Elevating Men is all about rebuilding the man so that he can help rebuild the community. We believe that's extremely important, extremely important. Half of the population are men. And I'm not saying that all women are doing everything right, but in this day and age, I feel that a lot of women do have it together. They're connected, they're present, they're doing what they need to do. And so as men, we want to make sure that we're also filling our roles so that together we can build the communities that we want. Last week, we had a great conversation. We talked about forgiveness and not just forgiving other people, but actually forgiving yourself. It was a great conversation, probably one of the best that we've ever had. And so I want you to check that out when you have time. Go to YouTube, type in Elevating Men, and check out the last episode. And so today we're going to be talking about connection. And if you look at the post, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, wherever you're watching this, I want to read what was typed out just so that we can get in the proper mindset to have this conversation. Men are so detached. We disconnect from our friends. We disconnect from our families. We're detached in our relationships. A lot of us label ourselves as loners as if it's a badge of honor, when in reality, the loners are actually lonely. And we usually operate from a place of past hurt. The first step to building community is actually building unity. And I think that's where we lack as men. Andrew, you wanted to have this conversation, so you brought this conversation to the forefront. I wanted to give you just about 30 seconds to tell us why this was on your mind, why it was on your heart, and why you feel it's important.
So, connections. It's my belief that many of us use the word we, and we don't know that the importance of we actually involves a connection. It involves intention. It involves work with others. And if we cannot do that as an individual, then as an individual, we can never build that we. And we is usually it starts out a lot of people's sentences and or statements. We need to, we should, if we would ever. Yeah. We don't understand that connections are the most important, the most important element of we.
I agree. I agree. Before we get deep into the conversation, there were a couple of quotes that I saw online that I think kind of sum up the thoughts of a lot of people. I'm not even just going to say men, but in this day and age, we really do wear being a loner as a badge of honor, right? And I found this one here. This first one says, I was told I was dangerous, and I asked why, and their response was because you don't need anyone, and I smiled. The second one, I am completely a loner. In my head, I want to feel I can be anywhere. There's a sort of recklessness that being a loner allows me, right? And so there's just two quotes there. Um, Mike,
Yes.
what comes to mind when you hear those two quotes?
Loner. Well, I'm more of an extrovert. Um, I, I really don't, loner means you're alone. You have nothing to express per se, or you don't have the ability to express it, um, and you can't find the words because you're so bogged down with either things in your mind or you just don't want to relate to anybody with something personal. A lot of times, I think, which could be the case, why some people have problems sharing is because they don't want to get too deep in their own emotions. And through their emotions causes pain because they haven't forgiven themselves. So it can't be a we situation till you take care of an I particular moment. There used to be a quote that said, I, me, my, mine, these are the words that do not rhyme. We, us, ours together, these are the words that will last forever. And so when you come to this whole point with we sometimes puts us in the situation of how long you're going to stay being a we and when you're going to leave me back to myself. That's an I. I can't depend upon you. I can't trust you to be around for the long haul. So I hope that I delved into what the question was. At least that's how I saw it.
I appreciate that. We're just getting some initial thoughts out of the way before we get deep into the conversation. For those of you that are tuning in right now, we appreciate your support. Do us a favor, give us a like or a heart so we know that you can hear us okay and that everything is coming across the way that it should. Also, share this with your network because we want to get as many people involved in this conversation as possible. Lauren, what comes to mind when you hear those two quotes?
What comes to mind is fear, sadness. Those are the first two things I kind of think about, when you talk about being a loner. And obviously, everybody's kind of connected to the word alone within that, and just the fear of opening up and, where it may lead you to, maybe the judgment that may come as a result of. I think a lot of people tend to keep things to themselves because of the fear of being judged or the fear of how other people may see them after they share something that may be super deep and intimate to them. And so it's easier, in a sense, in their minds to just keep it to themselves and kind of hold it all in. And then the sadness just kind of comes in because the more lonely you get, the more sad you get. And that does that just doesn't extend to that person, but that also extends to those around them that they may not see, do see them and even see them in pain and just don't really know what to say or how to kind of start that entry point to maybe even try to get that person to open up in some capacity.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that. I'm going to share this other quote, and I'll be done with the quotes. But right here it says, let me tell you this. If you meet a loner, no matter what they tell you, it's not because they enjoy solitude. It's because they have tried to blend into the world before and people continue to disappoint them. And so that goes into the hurt and the pain that you mentioned, Lauren. I believe you mentioned it as well, Mike. I want to share a little story with you guys, right? And so this is something that I dealt with personally this week, raising my children, right? And so I've got 3 boys, but this particular situation is with 2 of them, and there's a lot of intricacies here. So please follow me. If you're watching, don't click off. Listen. So I'm having a conversation with my boys, and they go to school. One is in elementary school, one is in middle school, and they've been having some serious peer pressure, down to the point where they don't know what clothes to put on. They don't know what music they should listen to. They don't know how their hair should be cut. They're beginning to lose themselves in a sense. It's so important that they have a connection at their age, that they have people that they can really call friends, that they're beginning to shape themselves based off of their friends' perception. And so there was something that they said that it was kind of painful to hear, painful to hear. So we moved about 5 years ago. We moved to a neighborhood, and within the first maybe couple of years of being here, there was only a couple Black families in the neighborhood, right? So therefore, the school that they went to, they were the vast minority. Well, the neighborhood's changed over the last couple of years, and one thing that they said is, "Dad, I really don't understand, and it doesn't make sense to me. But for some reason, the white kids don't get picked on the same way we do." And I said, "Well, who's doing the picking on? Like, what do you mean by that?" And they said, "Well, it's the Black kids." And so one of the kids, he jumps out and he says, "You know what? Honestly, I would rather deal with racism than to deal with being in a school with a lot of Black kids, because they're just harder to deal with. They pick on you more. There's a lot more bullying." And then they share with me that there were a lot of children who've actually left the school because they were being bullied so bad. And so when we talk about connection, we always have to go back to childhood when it comes to our trauma, and what are our first experiences when it comes to connecting. And so it made me think, you know, for a lot of children who don't have a father in the home or a mother in the home or parents who aren't attentive, that's the first layer of trust. That's their first interaction with any human being. And so if they start there with mistrust, the next thing is they go outside of the home, and their first interactions outside of the home are typically at school. So then if they go to school, and from my children's point of view, you're not accepted by your own people, right? And you see that your own people respect others that don't look like you, but they'll run you through the ground. Now there's a second layer of mistrust.
Yeah.
There's something that I want to show you. So this is a cup filled with vinegar, and those little black dots are gnats, right? And so if you have gnats in your home, I hope you don't, especially it's in the wintertime. But if you do, just know that you can actually put apple cider vinegar with a little bit of sugar in a cup, and gnats will be drawn to it to the point that they'll actually climb in there and die, right?
Right. I heard about
And so I was teaching my children a lesson, and I had them look in the cup, and I was like, does this really make sense that you have one gnat that jumped in and died, and then the next one jumped in and died, and then the next one jumped in and died? None of them ever had the thought that maybe he did it the wrong way, and maybe I shouldn't jump in that cup. But unfortunately, they do. And it seems silly. It seems awful silly. But then when we look at our communities, right, we see people making the exact same mistakes over and over. Fatherless homes. We see people being addicted to drugs. We see people following each other down the wrong path. And it's all because of that connection, trying to find somewhere to fit in, wanting to feel connected, wanting to feel loved, wanting to feel attached, right? And so it's a basic need that we all have, but then we become adults, and then we start wearing "I'm a loner" as a badge of honor, as if that idea didn't come from a place of hurt.
Right.
Right? And so that kind of wraps up my synopsis there. But Andrew, out of those things that I said, what comes to mind for you?
Nothing. You said everything. You truly said everything. But if I had to add anything, that's the beginning of the results of pain, the residue of pain. What those sayings that you put up represent for me are fear that Lauren touched on, Also, what they represent is the lack of responsibility, meaning I do not want to be responsible for someone else's need and or requirement because I might let them down. And I think one of you all said something similar to that um, when you talked about, anyway, just letting other people down. Um, that fear of being judged, I think Lauren said that too, that fear of being judged because I let you down because you had this insurmountable task that you really wanted me a part of, and I didn't have the confidence in myself. So it was easier for me to distance myself from you so that I would not have the responsibility of seeing this through, just in case I failed, excuse me, it failed. And I meant that both ways. So we have this fear inside of us of achieving our greatness, of being us, because we've never seen us. We don't know who us is, and most importantly, we have to continuously define I, hoping that the others will accept that I as a part of us, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. You know, this makes me think of something. Um, wow. My father, he said that he was a loner. That was one thing that he always said. He said, "Well, son, I'm a loner," because he wasn't there. He wasn't there, and so he would say, "Well, I'm a loner," and it's my belief that he wasn't happy. He was lonely,
Mhm.
truly lonely. I look at the contrast between him and my mother who was present, and she just turned 74 a couple weeks ago, and all the families around and grandchildren are around, and you could just see the joy in her face, right? All the love was in the room. It was a beautiful thing,
Mm.
and it always makes me think of all the years that my father had those birthdays with no grandchildren around, with no children around. And I just really don't believe that that was a happy time where he was able to find a happy place in all of that. And so sometimes we, again, wear loneliness as a badge of honor and we push it off as something else. But I believe that it was kind of what you said, Andrew, understanding that you can disappoint people and let people down. And as men, we feel that we always have to be right and that we have to be perfect and we have to nail it. Like everything has to go right, or it falls back on us. And so sometimes instead of accepting that responsibility and just doing the best that we can, we self-evaluate and we look in the mirror and say, I'm not going to be able to get 100% on this. I might end up with a 70, 75, maybe even a 65%. And instead of going for that and improving, we just fall back and don't do anything. Uh, Lauren, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. I think what I would add to that is we we want to be the strongest man in the room at all times. You know, we have a hard time sometimes even recognizing that we're not strong in the moment, you know, because we feel like the expectation that is bestowed upon us is to be strong all the time, 24/7. We got to be tough in our sleep. You know, everywhere we go, it's just this mindset that, you know, if we're not strong, then we're weak. And a man is not allowed to be weak. He's not allowed to have moments where he's not at the top of his game. And so when we have those moments, we just find a easy way to shrink and just disappear. You know, and again, wanting to be strong, we think that we are there in the present moment when everybody around us recognizes something different, something's not right. And when we're asked, it's just that standard. Oh, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, yeah. Nah, I'm good. And everything says you're not good, but I'm not gonna force the issue because I don't want to upset you, or you know, I don't want to push you down a dark path. And so it's very, very it's a two-way street. You know, I feel like, you know, as men, we owe it to each other to pick each other up in those times of weakness, and say, hey, bro, I know you're not strong right now. What can I do to assist? What type of assist can I get? Do you just need to lean on me for a minute, or do you need to talk to somebody? Like, what is it that you need? And let me be that source of strength when you're weak. Let me be the source of strength when you're weak.
I want to give a quick shout out, Tammy, Mark, and Carolyn. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you and your support. Ryan Harvey, Lauren, you actually said strongest man in the room, and so definitely got to shout out Ryan Harvey. Check him out. He's one of the best motivational speakers that I've heard personally, and so definitely support him. He has an ebook, a ton of motivational clips that'll really get you going. And so Ryan, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you. Lauren, I wanted to stick with the feeling of inadequacy for a second, because I believe that that runs through every type of relationship. There was a point in time where I was in a small apartment, right? And me and my two oldest children, mother, we had just split up. I'm just being transparent. We split up. I didn't have much of anything. I was trying to get back on my feet. And I was a weekend dad at the time, right? And so on the weekend, I'll go pick up my children. And I would try to go to Chuck E. Cheese, we go out to eat, we go do all these different things. Well, I had a rough spot, right? Because I'm trying to start a business, just splitting up, things are kind of crazy. And so it got to a point where I couldn't be a great, what I considered a great weekend dad. I would have to pick them up and maybe we just play in the floor, right? You know, we get a puzzle, we get some toys, and we just kind of play around. Yeah. And to me, that wasn't enough. So it made me feel inadequate. And I started having feelings like, well, maybe instead of picking them up this weekend, maybe I should be going and working and trying to get some money so I can actually take them to Chuck E. Cheese next weekend, right? And so we have all of these feelings in our mind of what other people expect from us. My question, and anyone can take this, but have you ever been in a position where your thought process on how other people viewed you changed the way that you acted or how you felt about yourself or what things that you did?
So I can relate to what you just got finished describing. And it was not about what other people perceived. It was about what I knew that I could not provide, that I wanted to provide. And it was that gut-wrenching hate that my other persona continuously reminded me that I was nothing, that made me just hate myself. And that hate was not something that was easily overcome when I needed to be the strongest person in the room, or just when I needed to be strong. It was overbearing, and it was pressing upon me and my body. And that depression, it kicked in. It kicked in strong.
Mike, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for tuning in. He left a comment. He says the feeling of inadequacy is our downfall. I'm fighting that right now. Just know that you're not fighting it alone. We all have those feelings at various points, and it's tough to get over. It's tough to get past. And that's not something that we can ignore. I believe that it also hinders our connection when it comes to friendships, right? Because if you have any feelings of inadequacy, a lot of times that encourages you to be a recluse, right? We say, okay, well, I'm going to hunker down and I'm going to be alone until I get myself together. And then I'm going to pop out like, you know, ta-da, here I am, you know, the great me. But what tends to happen is in that loner state, we don't make the connections that we need to make to ever have that pop out moment. And so we stay in the dark, right? Mike, I got to ask you this, man. I got to ask you this, brother, because with you being in the fitness world, right? Yeah. You see people at their most vulnerable. They're sweating, they're shaking, you know, they're trying to get through these workouts. They're trying to keep up with the crowd, so to speak. And so can you speak to the feelings of inadequacies that some people feel? You don't have to relate it exactly to fitness, but I know that that's something that you see and deal with a lot. And have you ever seen or witnessed a person whose own feeling of inadequacy kept them from connecting with other people?
I see it all day. I've seen it for the last 32 years. And it's not the point of them connecting with other people, it's having a problem connecting with themselves. And connecting with yourself is a juggernaut. It's a nemesis. It's kind of like a Katrina. It explodes into something that happens to you into you inwardly. And when you ask them to do something, when you ask them to do a particular exercise or a particular task, the negative piece always comes out first. So I've had to be, and I always will be, the strongest in the room. Uh, no weapons formed against me shall prosper. And that's the mentality that I have. I have the mentality that there's nothing I can't accomplish. All I need to do is put my mind and get my mind straight and hang around people who have that same force that builds my society, that builds a culture of positiveness. And I leave all the negative crap out and I don't allow it to facilitate in conversation around me. So these people, I have to now take away the negative connotations, the negative types of verbs and adjectives that they use, and change their speech, and change their way of speech, and change their way of thinking. Because you have people, man, even after being with me 4 or 5 months, even after years, they feel inadequate about what they wore, what somebody said they looked like, or how they looked in front of somebody else. And because this may be missing, I still got a pot belly here, or I still got this flap here. So they say, I feel good. I'm okay. I'm okay, but I'm not there like a model is uh, on a magazine. Well, you don't have to be a model on a magazine. Be who you are and be the best that you are where you are. You don't have to now engage in being like somebody else. And that's one of the issues I had was I wanted to be like Ronnie Coleman. I wanted to be like Lee Haney. You don't have to be those people. Those people are who they are. And you have some people that want to be, when it comes down to religion, this super evangelist or this super business person that has all the pedigree of money and things. And so you try to fit in to a culture really that you don't fit into. And so by the time you come to the gym, and the gym is a place you've never been, now all these things come out. They begin to tell you stories of what happened at home, their job, with a friend. And you get story after story after story because they haven't found out their own journey yet. They haven't found out themselves yet. And so sometimes it does hurt me when I see them going through these situations they go through. And so I come in and I give them uplift.
Yeah, I appreciate that. There's a comment here that I want to spend a little bit of time on. It says, "What about the feeling you feel when you feel like you're doing things right, but you're being told that it's not enough?" And so that sense of inadequacy is coming from other people's opinions. Lauren, you want to take that?
I do. I think sometimes we have to ask ourselves, do we agree? Because when you know that you're doing all you can do, uh, there is a sense of understanding and a sense of peace that one does have that they know, hey, this I am pushing hard. I am giving every ounce that I have left. It's when we know that we have more to give and just weren't willing to give it. And then sometimes it's you have to ask the question, good enough for whom? Right? Somebody says, "Oh man, that's not good enough." Good enough for who? Is it not good enough for you? Is it not good enough for me? And especially when we're talking about fathers with children, and your child's mother is like, "Ah, you ain't doing enough," and you know I'm not saying ask the kids because they have the answers, but they are the ones that you are truly working to make sure that they're okay. And so it can't be what somebody else specifies as what's good enough unless there's been agreement of an expectation that is expected. And if you know you're not living up to that expectation, you have to look inside of yourself and say, is there something more I have to give? And if you have given everything, you have to have a inner peace that says, I'm doing everything that I can do, and I am also creating an environment where I am able to pour more and give more, if that's what's needed.
You know, to piggyback on that, I would also say that time tells things as well. So a lot of times when you have pressure from outside people, they have their own perception and it's based on the moment. And so as long as you can keep a longer term perspective that, okay, maybe I'm not doing everything that I should do, and pay attention to what Lauren said. He said doing everything that you can do. And you have to understand that what you can do is going to change and morph over time as you grow and become a better person. And so as long as you're doing everything that you can do, understand that that capacity is going to increase over time. And so you may be hearing some negativity now, and some of it may even be valid, but understand that as long as you're trying and you're pushing and you're focused on improvement, time will tell, time will show, because you'll improve and you'll be able to do more. Your capacity is going to expand. Andrew, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, please. I love both of what you all said. I want to take it back to what Lauren was talking about a minute ago. And forgive me if I get my paraphrasing a little bit off, Lauren, but you were saying something similar to always wanting to be the strongest person in the room, always wanting to be the strongest person in the room, strong at everything. And Andrew, you just got finished talking about, give it some time. Time will show. It will tell what you've done. Will you put Mike's comment back up about the ones you just took
Yes.
out?
1 second.
And Nico had talked about, she says sometimes those feelings or a lot of times are rooted in pride. One thing I want to talk about, time for me, time was always, it was always now. It was not tomorrow. It was not later on, but it was always now, whenever the need was always now. And time was not my friend, and therefore neither was I. Being the strongest person in the room, I always walked in already angry with myself, knowing my weaknesses more so than my strengths. I didn't know all of my strengths because I didn't know all of me. So I was always comparing what my strengths were in accordance with what the need was versus what I had to offer to the need. I did not know that I had a lane within that. And lastly, being the strongest person in the room, I did not know that I had specific gifts that were the strongest in the room, even if it were patience and calm or just the ability to screw the screwdriver in because everybody else had a hammer. I did not know. Talking about that pride thing, I wrote a little something in my book where it says, and pride. Well, pride just doesn't capture all that I'm dealing with. I mean, hey, it was once said that too much pride would result in a man's ultimate downfall. Pride was once considered the deadliest of all sins. But what about too little pride? I actually think that it's my lack of pride that has me messed up, because I did not know myself. I did not know my strength. I did not support myself. I did not forgive all the things that I did not know, all the things that I was blaming myself for, all the imperfection that I was trying to rise up to, all the strength that I was trying to be in support of everyone, as in the strongest person in the room. I did not know how to calm down and just be. Didn't know.
I think a lot of us deal with that, man. I think a lot of us deal with that. There's a place that you can gain a sense of pride when you understand who you are innately. And I mean, I like that because you're one of the first people that asked me the question, "Who are you?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Who are you?" And it stumped me for a very long time. And I think that's really the power of friendship and not secluding yourself, making sure that you're around people that can recognize your gifts and talents, because sometimes we don't even recognize what it is that we bring to the table, right? And so when you can have people that can evaluate and say, "Hey, man, you're really, really good at this," or "You have a gift in this area," sometimes it allows us to do the self-reflection necessary to boost our self-esteem, so that we can better connect. Mike.
Question: how important, or is it important for somebody else to recognize our talent or do we, or can we step out to now recognize the talent that we have on our own?
Truthfully, just my personal opinion is it depends on where you're at, right? Sometimes we're in a high place where, you know, that sense of pride is just there and it's just right on our shirt, right on the surface. And when you're in that state, I do believe that you can easier recognize your abilities and your talents and what you have to offer. But when you're in the sunken place, for lack of a better words, I think that's where you need other people to be able to say, hey, man, you have everything that you need to be able to pull yourself up. And so I think it goes both ways, just depending where you are. But of course, I don't have all the answers. What do you guys think?
So with me, recognition, I always go back to the hierarchy, and that I believe is the third rung on the hierarchy: love and acceptance. Meaning that does not come from me; that comes from others actually being loved by me and receiving what I have to share, or accepting what I have to share. I cannot give myself that accolade that, oh, I was the best, you know, and whether you liked it or not, or whether it fit the moment or not. Hey, I did. Hey, yay. I knocked it. You know, but that's where others give me that assignment. And if I don't get that love and acceptance, then I'm always searching for it to know that I was worthy.
Mike, you had something?
Mike keeps putting up this word pride. I don't have pride. I'm confident into the things that I do because I see the manifestation and the benefits of what I've done. I've seen the growth. I've seen the attachments. I've seen it manifest into things that are beyond what I could do myself that God gave me. Then second of all, I know who I am. I'm God's child. I belong to him. And the Spirit tells me, and I see the blessings that he gives me, that I have favor with him. So when I step out to do certain things, yeah, there's affirmation and confirmation. I get it, and it does take some people to give you that, you know, that data boy type thing. But I'm just confident in some of the things that I do and some of the things that I know. And so people can call it pride all they want to, and that's okay. I understand. But I'm not self-centered thinking I'm the only one who has the right answer. I'm not narcissistic thinking I'm the only one that has the right answer. That's the only way to go. I'm acquiesced now to bring in others' ideas, other people, folks' ideas, so that it would help me to further broaden and deepen and give me structure of things I may not know.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Really quick, I got you, Andrew, next for sure. I just want to thank the audience really quick. Thank you all for tuning in. Devin Elise, Lifted KC, definitely follow her, check her out. Nico Baker, she's on the board with Lifted KC. We thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate your support. Andrew, you have something you want to add?
Would you put Mike's last comment back up, please?
I will.
I left my pride because I feel that it would ultimately in some way keep me from my babies. And the way that I interpret that, and forgive me, Mike, for interpreting your comment on my own, the way that I interpret that was, if I were so pride-filled, I would say, you know what, hey, forget the world, forget whatever she's talking about, you know, hey, I got to do me, dang it, and I'm doing me. But instead you said, you know what, forget this pride that would keep me from having my shoulders up and my chest out when I'm thinking it's about me, it's about my babies. So I left my pride aside so that I can see my babies. If I read that correctly, I would be proud of you for setting yourself aside, for being strong enough to conquer self, for being pride filled enough in the ability that you knew that the children needed, because there were two different dynamics going on. There was the you that the children needed, and there was the you that that was pride filled, you know, and you chose that particular person, and you proudly gave them what they needed, despite what that other guy was feeling. You proudly gave them what they needed, and that is a form of pride in self, pride in that ability. Be proud that you gave them what they needed. Be proud that you were strong enough in that moment to choose which mic to be. So thank you, in my opinion.
I agree with that 100%. And when you see the picture there that comes up, it's him and those babies. It's him and those babies. And so, um, yeah, sometimes as a man, it is hard to let aside that pride. But when it comes to, my pride or my children, that's when we have to put the pride to the side. Mike, I'm sorry.
And I didn't mean to disavow what he was saying, because Andrew, what you were saying was right on point about what he was saying as well. So I didn't mean to dismember that. And I now see by reading it that he's talking about the pride. It could have been like, forget all this, do it this way, do it that way. But I appreciate him being transparent in the way that he was. And sometimes pride can have you mess up a whole lot of stuff, because things that you should do, you don't do because you're so darn prideful that you can't see going 90, going north, going nowhere, not knowing where you're going, what's best for your children, and it becomes all about yourself. So I see where he's going. I say to you, Brother Mike, keep up the good fight of faith and be that father that you should. And it's humility with dignity, humbleness with pride. And so you put those things, those components together, brother. You just keep on going, being the good black father that you are. You keep up, the mindset and the direction and the narrative, so that you can now prosper in those kids. Those kids now can prosper into this world and become what you have now set out for them to become.
Lauren, you and I were talking earlier. Um, we were talking earlier, and I was sharing you the situation I was dealing with my boys. And you said something, and it goes right into this vein of conversation about pride. You said that sometimes as parents, we're so prideful and feeling like we know exactly what's needed in every situation, and we take away the voice of our children to help us in shaping them and making the proper decisions. Can you speak a little bit more to that?
Yeah, I am a firm believer that the we that we always talk about also cascades down to the next generation. You know, if we are all imperfect creatures, then there is no way as a parent that I am a perfect parent. And two things come to mind. When we were talking about that earlier, the first thing was our ability to understand that we are trying to raise children to be adults in their own minds, in their own worlds. And when you make all the decisions for your children and don't really give them the opportunity to have somewhat of a partnership in their own growth, they get stuck, and they're going to keep coming to you to help them, to save them, because you haven't equipped them with the tools that they need to go out and make decisions on their own. And kids are extremely intelligent. They observe every move that we're making. They take in everything that we say to try to make some semblance of it. And you can't raise two kids alike, because that would mean that they are the same person. And so you have to take each child and you have to say, let's talk. Let me learn about you so that I understand how to help you, grow, how to help you evolve. Because ultimately, you are going to leave my home. You're going to leave the nest, and I want to know that you can survive on your own, and that you don't always have to come back and ask me for help, because I've already equipped you by partnering with you to understand self, instead of me giving you all of the answers. Let me give you some breadcrumbs and allow you to go out and figure things out, and then we come back and have a conversation. Because believe it or not, uh, they will grow up to emulate a lot of the things that we do, both positive and negative, because it is what they saw for so many years. And so those actions become their habits. And so it's important for us to partner with our children and not just be the boss. And then secondhand, understand them, right? There's so many things that can help us as parents if we take the time to understand our children. And, you know, when we don't take that time, we are actually breaking pieces of the bonds of trust because kids are supposed to make mistakes. They're going to fail. And if all we come back when they fail is a punishment, they're never truly going to learn anything. And so we have to look at failure in general, right? If we can learn how to accept failure as not the end, but just an experiment that didn't work. And we have to figure out, okay, where do we go from here? Do we have to scrap the entire thing, or do we sit down, evaluate, figure out exactly what didn't work, tinker, and then go right back out there, because teaching the proper steps of failure will help our children be stronger instead of hiding behind their mistakes and not facing them and learning how to deal with them long term.
Andrew. Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
Lauren, you said a mouthful, but the only thing I could pick up on was the last thing you said, teaching our children, how to navigate those failures. I did not learn that myself. I don't know how to navigate failures. I can't teach them what I have not forgiven myself for. So everything is like a now moment, because if you don't learn this while you're 4, you're gonna turn 5, and I'm looking at all the ridicule that you're gonna get from your friends because they're all 5 and you're still operating at 4, and then you're gonna turn 6 and oh my gosh, I'm starting to panic. Oh man, I don't know how to deal with this failure because that was me.
Andrew, one thing that there's 2 words that I don't think that I've heard tonight, and they really tie into all of this. And one is fear, and the other is acceptance. We are sorely afraid of not being accepted, right? And so when we tie this back into the conversation of us being better connected so that we can have a better community, it's like you have the restoration. It's all about connection. It's my belief that we have an acceptance problem. We don't accept people for who they are and where they are, right? I wish Laurent was on here. There was something that he said on the show before, that people need 3 types of friends. Like, you need a friend that's above you, so to speak. You need one that's on your level. You need someone that you're trying to pull up to your level. And I think there's a huge disconnect in there because there's a whole lot of fear and there's a whole lot of acceptance issues in that type of hierarchy. What I mean by that is the person who's at the top, who's got it all together, everybody beneath them is a waste of time. Everybody beneath them is a waste of time. And then those who are beneath them, who are reaching up, trying to connect, a lot of them are disingenuous because they're looking for help. And so they're not really trying to know the person. They're not trying to connect with them. They're not trying to accept who they actually are outside of what they have and what they can do for them. And then for the people that are on the same level, right? Just say even the same industry, so to speak. I sell insurance, other insurance agents. Instead of us accepting that we're in the same thing and getting rid of the fear of competition, we just don't connect. I just rather not connect. And so when you have that type of thinking, top to bottom, you don't connect with anyone at all, right? You don't accept anyone for where they're at. You don't accept where you are. And there's fear all over the place. What comes to mind when I say that?
I'll jump in. Some of that acceptance comes from our inability to accept ourselves, and a lot of that will kind of trickle down into our inability to forgive ourselves for past errors, past failures. And so we are sizing people up on a level because we are actually trying to mask our own pain. We're trying to mask our own lack of acceptance of ourselves. And so we then push that on other people and try to say, okay, where do you fit on the level of things that I need in my life? And oh well, I might be doing this wrong, but you doing that wrong. I'm an alcoholic, but you a crackhead, and so we we have this improper balance, and a lot of it goes right back directly to us, right, wrong, or indifferent. Whether it's the guy that's beneath you, well, it's easy to just keep stepping on him because he's not on your level. And then the guy that's on the same level as you, well, guess what? You're getting ready to elbow him in his chest, in his stomach, in his throat, because he represents a roadblock in you trying to get ahead. Then the guy that's ahead of you, well, he's just a chump because he's not reaching down trying to pull you up to try to bring you up to his level. So everybody's an issue except for you. And so we have to learn first to accept self before we can go out and accept others, before we can go out and really try to size up those around us. Because what you'll find very quickly once you get into the proper space is that everybody has something to offer you and you have something to offer them. But you have to be in the right space personally before you can actually live in that thought process. And then once those eyes are open, you will see, dang, like, okay, you can help me with this and I can help you with that. And then it becomes more of a reciprocal type of relationship versus me against the world.
Love that. Love that. Mike and Andrew, I saw you both kind of put your hand up. Mike, you had something you wanted to add?
Yeah. See, I guess I hope I'm following this the right way. Most people are confident into the things that they're confident in, that they feel that they're good in. When I first became a pastor, I wanted to be, the word is acceptance. I wanted to be accepted by all these different pastors that I met. I wanted to be accepted. But I didn't feel confident because I didn't have the theological intellect, and I didn't have the years beyond and all the things that they had done and things that they spoke about. And it wasn't until years later, even through school, until after that, I began to now feel confident. But still at this point in time, you feel sometimes inadequate in certain situations. It's hard to explain, but have you ever been in a situation whereas you wanted to fit in, but you didn't fit in yet, and that you weren't a part of the group that you were around?
I can speak to that, Mike. So imposter syndrome, have you ever heard that term?
No.
So it's something that's usually used in the workplace where someone maybe gets a promotion to a level that they may not be educationally qualified for. And then they go to work every day feeling like they're an imposter because they're in the position of someone who should hold an MBA, but they don't have it. And so it feels like they're faking, even though obviously they're qualified or they wouldn't be in that position. And so I could see that applying to you, like you said, as a pastor. You don't have the theological background and the seminary and all the degrees and all of that. But you have a talent, you have a gift, you have a skill, and you know that. But then when you get in the room with others who have that background, it makes you feel like an imposter. And I believe, and I've got you after this, but I believe that goes across all areas of our life. I can imagine Lauren, if you watch the show more than once, then you know that Lauren had his first child fairly young. You are a real father, but I imagine there were points and times where it almost felt like imposter syndrome had to have kicked in here and there. Me as a business owner, I don't have a business degree, And sometimes, depending on the rooms that I'm in, or if I hit a stumbling block in my business, that imposter syndrome kicks in. And so that's something that's very real. You wanted to add to your statement?
Yeah, but see, what I was told, Andrew, is quit trying to be like somebody else that you're not. And I wanted to be like all these other big preachers and all these, you want to preach like them. That stuff's not necessary. You know why? Because you find the inadequacies in you, and that's the reason why you want to be like them. But until you are sitting down with somebody who shares with you and then gives you confidence that you got enough to be your own, stop trying to be like everybody else. At that point in time, there's a change. But everybody wants to be like somebody. We got that role model. We got to hoop like that. We got to teach like that. That's not what God called you to do. I mean, even though Kobe wanted to be so like Michael Jordan, Kobe could not be Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was Michael Jordan. Kobe was Kobe, even though he mentored him and he set his own presence. But my point is that I felt inadequate, at that time because I didn't have the education I have now. And I feel like, how do I fit in these guys when I sit in the same room? We go to the same church, and if I preach, and when they accept what I'm saying, did I say that right? And so I beat myself down because I'm trying to be like somebody else.
Completely makes sense. Andrew, you want to add something?
Yeah, would you put Pastor Brooks' statement up, systematically brainwashed? So the way that I interpreted you describing what LaRon had talked about, there's somebody that you need who's above you, there's your level, and then there's someone that you're pulling up. Remember, well, let me not say remember, because for me, this person right here in the middle, who is me on this level, this person is 3/5 of a man. This person has always been 3/5 of a man. That's why this person has always been striving to be. That's why this person has always been something that systematically he's been brainwashed to tell him that he's not. This person is also a Black, first and foremost, man. This person does not understand that he is a hue man. And if any of you all would like, I would challenge you to look up the definition of hue. Because what you will discover is it is a hued man. A man, and that hue has many colors. It is of color. So it's not just a Black man. It's just not just a red man. It's not just a white man. It's not just a yellow man. It is a hued man. Cut short, it is a human. But we are Black first. So we remind ourselves that we are 3/5 of a man, and we fit into this systematically brainwashing of what we are not and will never be. So we're always trying to achieve this level here. And while we're trying to achieve this level, it's very hard for us to pull someone else up because we need both of our hands to grab onto this particular level, as well as if we have created another responsibility, that other hand is for our responsibility. So we have no more hands. Imagine if we turned it this way, where the playing field was level, and it was no, I need to get up because I'm no longer satisfied with myself and my level. Imagine if I had on this side of me support, and on this side of me someone I was supporting me, but the ground that we're all standing on, is connected, common, equal to us all, which we can all grow from. My mind is now shifting that I do not have to want, because I've put this systematic label that what they have is better, because that assignment is upper. It's the upper level, and I'm not at the upper level. That upper level has a totally different distinction. That lower level is someplace I don't want to be because of that systematic brainwashing and what these words mean, because I don't understand my strength, my position in between all of this greatness. So, yeah.
Thank you for bringing that analogy. I think that's so important, man. I think that's really important. I appreciate that. That was good. Because this conversation of being on different levels and trying to connect so that we can have a more common unity or community is huge. It's huge because we even see that when it comes to the male female relationship. And so, if you're on social media at all, you see conversations about dating, and they say, "Well, I'm not going to get with anybody that's not on my level." And it's like, what does that mean exactly? And at that point, once you ask for clarity, then you start hearing the brainwashing. It comes down to income. It comes down to status. It comes down to all of these things outside of who you are as an individual person. And then it goes back to acceptance. I accept you for who you are, and we can stand next to each other on solid common ground versus us having this level conversation that ultimately separates all of us. And I think that is the ultimate personification of connection. So I appreciate that. Lauren, what would you have?
No, I wanted to say something because I think one of the things that we have done amongst our own inner circle amongst us five is we've helped each other breathe more confidence into each other. And I can say, being a father, the times that I sit back and just watch my kids do things that I wouldn't have probably had the guts to do when I was their age, helps me understand the importance of my role as a father in, you know, them knowing that they always have that support and somebody that, if they start to teeter totter, will just simply, give them that little push again to make sure that they're riding their own ships. And I think for us, it's easy to sound confident, but when I think about even when I was a younger man, and I didn't have my father in my life, I didn't have this confidence. And I think there's a lot of men just like that didn't have male role models, or they didn't have their fathers in their lives. And so there's this constant search for, who am I? What makes me great? What makes me valuable? And I think it's incumbent upon, guys that have already made it in a sense, from that mentality standpoint, to basically reach back down and, give that support. Hey, you're great. This right here is what makes you great. Because sometimes people just don't know. Sometimes people just don't know because they haven't taken the time, or they didn't know that they could take the time to dig deep down inside themselves and see, what is it about me that makes me great? What is it that what's my superpower? What makes me that hero in the minds of somebody out there, even if it's just one person? And I think that a lot of times we look over that because we're just simply trying to tell you that you are great. And, sometimes people do need to be told, or even in some cases, they need to be spoon fed a little bit, just to give them that little boost that, gives them the confidence to go out there and find out who they really are, or find out, what that strength is, that they know that they're playing a important supportive role in some capacity. And that in itself will build up their confidence. It'll build up their character, which in turn will help build up their strength in a way that sometimes, when they're feeling weak, they can fall back on that superpower and say, "Oh, nope, superpower, man. I need you. I need to open up so I can show myself the S on my chest, and things of that nature." So I think it's important for us to remember that not everybody's in our space, and there's probably less in our space from a place of confidence and knowledge of self than there are people that are in our space, or even on a level higher than us. And so, I want everybody to know, if you are struggling with, who am I? What makes me great? uh Surround yourself with people, or a person. It doesn't have to be multiple people. It can just be a person that really truly pours into you, and gives you the confidence to just walk that path, because walking the path is sometimes the hardest thing to do.
Mm. Andrew, go ahead.
So one of the things that I hope that we will listen for is that energy pill, that strength pill, that confidence pill. And that confidence pill comes in the form of this. Dang it, it's backwards. Can you all read that? Even though it's
So
backwards?
thank you.
Yes, it says thank you. How many of you all actually heard someone say thank you to you and your response was no problem, or we good, or um, something other than you're welcome?
Plenty of times.
We have gotten away from saying this word. We have gotten away from understanding the power in that word. But when someone actually says, thank you did that. Thank you. Understand that had you not did that, had you not exerted your superpower, had you not been that confident rock in that moment, even if it was just holding a door open, that meant that meant a lot to that person for them to give you their thanks, to give you they own that thanks. They didn't have to give it to you. We just don't understand the simplicity in humanity and what we are striving for, because we're so busy wanting what our eyes show us that we are not. And it goes back to that systemic brainwashing.
Yeah, and even going back to the brainwashing, and I want to make sure we really tie this to connection, because we talked about children, but it affects us as adults as well. We want to be connected so bad that we will die for connection. And so I got to bring this image back up because there's so many thoughts that came to mind when you said that. And so back to this gnat filled cup. These gnats followed each other into their own demise for the purpose of connection, right? Maybe if you just imagine yourself as one of them and you weren't able to find yourself on your life path and you didn't have that encouragement, the next thing you're going to do is look over to those around you to see what they are doing. And the thing about this picture, that vinegar, that taste of vinegar to a gnat is so sweet that it can't resist the attraction. And so once one goes in, another one follows behind it, and another and another and another. And we have all of these people who fall victim, who fall in the trap of following people who really don't have their best interest at heart, but they're just looking for that little taste of something, right? But when you have people who are a part of your team, who care about you, who can actually take a look at your unique talents and abilities and give you the encouragement that you need to actually stay on your path, that's how you can avoid a lot of those pitfalls that are so common in our community.
Hey, are you gonna put a disclaimer that picture is not sitting next to you?
It is it, bruh. That was all Google Images. Now the story is true. There was some gnats. I taught the kids a little story, but no, that's all Google Images. But when it comes down to it, though, that's how important connection is. We're going to connect somewhere. We can say loner all we want, but there's going to be a connection somewhere. How do you choose that connection? And choosing wisely is what's most important.
Well, and just to add a little bit to that, if you're not going to connect to people, you're going to connect to things. And sometimes those things can be drugs, alcohol. Like you said, you're going to connect to something. And so whether it's a person, place, or thing, that thing you connect to could lead you down a darker path.
So
absolutely.
So listen to what Lauren said. We're going to connect to something, and Andrew, we follow these gnats. What if we took a self-assessment, like either right now or right after this show? What am I connected to? Not that I am going to connect to something. What am I currently connected to? Who am I currently connected to? When am I currently connected to it or them? How am I connected to it or them? Where am I connected to it and them? And most importantly, why am I connected to it and them? Ask yourself right there. You can take a self-assessment right now, because you're not going to connect to something. You're already connected to something. Excuse me. Yes, you are going to connect to something else, but you're already connected to something. And you can actually disconnect if you actually identify where those gnats have actually gone. Because somebody said, hey, you can have this too. Or that sweet smell is always attracting you. You don't even see the gnats because the sweet smell is what you're following.
Mhm.
Understand. You can actually say, why am I following this sweet smell? What is it that I want from it that I don't already have?
Yeah. We're going to find something to connect to,
Exactly.
even if it's to our own demise.
Exactly.
We have to have that feeling of being connected. It actually reminds me when we were at the man cave prayer breakfast. Pastor Brooks, shout out to him. The Oasis Church will be there on February 25th, so I'll be looking out for that announcement. But before we started, there was actually a poem or a post that was put up, and it was read to the audience, and it went something like this. I'm just kind of paraphrasing, but it says, "You don't know how many times a man sits in his car, or he drives around instead of going in the home, and he breaks down and he cries, to himself all alone, and then he walks in the house and he says, 'Oh, okay, I'm fine,' and nobody really knows what's going on with him." I believe at that low point is where you find what they're connected to. So if there's actually a true friend that they're connected to, that's when they get the call. If it's the bottle that they're connected to, that's when the bottle's open, right? And so it's like when we hit that low point. So when Andrew said to do this self-evaluation, if you're having trouble with it, think of the last time that you hit a low. Who did you call? What did you reach for? What did you go and do? And that's what you're connected to. And if you find that whatever that is something that's negative and it's not actually enhancing your life, it's something that's taken away from you, it's that vinegar that the gnats fall in. Now you can do a proper assessment and say, wait a minute, I'm connected to the wrong things, right? And so, go ahead, Andrew.
So you just got finished saying, think of the last time. Again, what I'm asking you to do is either right now or right after this call, open your eyes and just look around and see what you are connected to. There might not be anybody in that room, which might be that answer. One of those answers is nobody. There might be certain things in that room that you always connect with, which might be that thing. It might be in your refrigerator. It might be on the side of your bed. It might be in the other room. It might be a Game Boy. It might be. Just look at what you are connected to.
I'm connected to the internet.
And ask yourself if it's serving you or not.
Exactly.
Is what you're connected to actually serving you well? Mike, we haven't heard from you in a while. I know we said a lot, but what are your thoughts right now?
Well, I'm taking in what everybody is saying. Again, the points you brought up about fear and acceptance, and I brought in the point of confidence, and so I think one of the situations that can bring down fear is, how do I become confident? And the people that I hang around, the environment that I have, the culture that I have around me, what does it dictate? What does it promote? Is it negativity, or is it an asset, or is it nothing but liabilities? And then the young man, Mike, about his kids and the pride, different things like that. I just totally, I give him thumbs up. I encourage him, Logo, and all of those that have kids that, because I have been blessed to have raised mine, who are doing very well now in life. But just, keep up that confidence and keep up that wherewithal, so that they can now emulate some of the things of the person that you are, and be true to them, and always be transparent as much as possible.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So I know that I've asked a lot of questions, and I've somewhat guided the conversation, but I definitely am prone to miss things, and I may not catch it all. And so, if anyone in the audience has any questions, if you could post those now, we're almost near the end of the show. And guys, you on the panel. If you have anything that you'd like to add, anything that I may have missed or glossed over, please. Oh, you're muted.
I have a comment and I have a question. I'm wondering, and it's not that I'm trying to dispute or anything, but I'm just wondering if confident people have fears also. I'm just curious. And when I say that, my first thought is some of the most confident men who also happen to be Black, they lose some of that confidence, if not all of it, at around 11:30, between 11:30 p.m. and 3 a.m. if they're out and those blue lights come up in their rearview mirror. That's just one of my fears. Now, it wasn't before, but unfortunately, I entertained that fear despite all the confidence I have. But I'm just wondering if even confident people have fears, because the point is, when we're trying to conquer these demons or these things that go bump in the night, we're losing a lot of time understanding who we are, even in the midst of all those things that the world throws at us. Yeah, I'm going to be afraid of some things, but I am confident in the things that I do. I am confident in my ability, despite my fears.
Can I respond to that?
Yes, sir.
Confident people have fears into the things they feel that they are inadequate in. But the problem is that it's hard for some people to really open up and to acknowledge and not deny their inadequacies.
My thought on that is confident people are confident where they have power. So here where I'm coming from. So you're a bodybuilder. Now I don't know if you play basketball or not. I have no idea, but I have seen you throw some serious weight around, so I know about that part. And I believe that you're confident and you're powerful in the gym. If we were to go to Rutgers to go play basketball, that confidence may correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not in your spirit, but does that confidence change at all when you're not in your own personal place of power?
Well, it's not the point of power, is that I'm not crazy. Why would I go out and play something I can't play? You ain't gonna go out there and kick my butt, boy. I know you good at what you do, and anything like that. But I may shoot something on the side, but I just would not do that.
I say that in jest, but I believe what Andrew's getting at is there are going to be, you have a choice to go play basketball or not,
right.
But we're always going to run into situations that we don't have any control and we can't avoid, and so how does that confidence translate in those moments?
And what I was also saying was, if you recognize that as being a possibility or a probability in your life, that yes, you do have fears despite your confidence, choose to understand that I still have fears, but I can still be confident in who I am, despite what I don't have control over. God grant me the ability to, and the ability to, and the knowledge to know, or
all of that.
But
that's serenity prayer.
Andrew, I'm gonna hang around people who know more than I do to help me. I don't want to be not in the know. I'm gonna hang around people that can help me, because I don't know. I don't like being last. I'm a winner. I try to win in everything I do.
I will say this, that I coach youth sports all the time, and so it's kind of one of my passions, and I tell every single kid I run into, we'll take basketball. You may not be a great scorer, but you may be a great rebounder, or you may play great defense. So do what you do well. Do what you do well, and the rest will be taken care of by somebody else. Dennis Rodman wasn't a great scorer, but he could body you up. and he could get rebounds. He left the scoring to Michael. He's like, hey, that's Mike's thing. I know that I am inadequate as a scorer, but I have this to offer from a team perspective that's something I can bring to the table that adds value to the whole. And so it's again kind of recognizing what your strength is, what your superpower is, and operating in that vein as often as you can. And if there's an opportunity for you to continue to grow in another area, you take those opportunities as they come. But truthfully, if we learn to live in our greatness, uh, we will take those inadequacies that we have and surround ourselves with people that supplement what our inadequacies are.
Let me ask this. And I got you, Andrew. I just want it goes with what he's saying. That team that you talk about. So we're talking about connections. We're saying that a lot of men don't have connections for whatever reason that may be. Um, what is your suggestion on actually finding that team? Or as a grown man, how do you connect with another man? Because we're all apprehensive, we're sizing each other up, we're trying to figure out what level you're on and all of that. And so for a man who's listening and he's like, okay, I see where you guys are coming from. I know I need to connect. I did the self-evaluation that Andrew mentioned. I looked around. The only thing I'm connected to is a PS5 and my dog or whatever.
Yeah.
How do you build that team?
So I think part of it is, we have this fear of trust, which pushes us or propels us away, at times. And so, you kind of have to take that mantra of trust everybody because they will show their true selves in time. We put so much energy into what may not happen that we've sucked out the energy away from what could happen. And so, instead of, focusing on, is somebody going, be shiesty and try to get one up on me? Trust everybody. They'll reveal themselves in time.
I see, Lauren, that ain't even me this time.
What?
I muted my mic.
So that's what I would say to that though, is I would say trust everybody and allow people to reveal themselves. And in that revelation, you will find those people that you need to surround yourself with. This is all a process. And even when you started a little bit late because maybe you didn't get the resources that you needed at a younger age, you still have to trust the process and allow the process to play itself out.
Andrew.
So what's the first step in the process?
What is it?
Well, we talked about it in the last show. So if you missed the last show, people, go back and understand the first step of the process. Because right now you're about 30-something years old, you're about 40-something years old, you're about 50-something years old, you might be about 20-something years old. And you're tuning into this show, liking some of the comments, liking some of the conversation, because you've either seen it or you felt it. And part of all of that seen and felt can only go away, and I'm going to say this with confidence, can only go away if you forgive it, if you forgive self, if you forgive it and self, if you forgive and let it go so that you can start the process.
Man, it's been definitely a great conversation. And I see where you're going with that. Yeah, you have to forgive because, just like the situation I said with my children earlier, and the conversation got deep. Like when I talk to the kids about school bullying and everything that goes along with that and the disconnect that it creates and that barrier or that wall that ends up being created from childhood that says, I don't know how close I want to get to this person because at any point in time they could turn on me because they get with a different peer group, or I don't have on the right clothes, or I don't say the right things. You have to forgive. You have to forgive. You have to get to a point of really getting past your past, them, You know, whether them is your parents, old friends, an old relationship. A lot of us have trust issues. Let's just be honest, because we're in a world full of imperfect people, and imperfect people do have a tendency of hurting others, whether it's intentionally or not. But if you hold on to that pain, it's going to affect your next relationship, friendship, partnership, business partnership. Not letting go is one of the key things that keeps us from being able to connect. Not forgiving the past, not forgiving them, not forgiving it. I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Hey, tell the boys if Unc need to come up there and regulate, I shave all this facial hair off. I blend right in.
Man, listen. Yeah, let's do that. Friday, 11 o'clock, lunch.
Bad boys for life.
So you go into a new relationship, and you walk out into the restaurant to meet the person, or you walk into the park to meet the person, or you go to their house and they invite you in. They're going to notice what you're wearing. They're going to notice your grooming. They're going to notice your scent. They're also going to notice what you're holding in your hand. Now, we're the only ones who think that our past and our unforgiveness is not visible, but it's just as clear as this.
I usually try to hold some flowers or something.
Yeah. I mean, that's a whole other conversation. How the inability to connect in actual like romantic relationships, like we have to do a whole show on that because there's just so many things, so many things, so many things. Man, anything else that you guys would like to add before we wrap up?
So I wanted to talk about one last thing. Lauren talked about we're always wanting. A lot of us are always wanting to connect, always wanting to fill those levels of the hierarchy, be it our basic needs, our safety and security, our love and acceptance, our esteem from self and others, our self-actualization. We're always wanting. My aunt gave a presentation in Bible study Wednesday night, and it was over love, the concept of love. And she said, many people can give. You can give without loving. You can give somebody something you don't have to love at all, but you cannot love without giving. And giving is a totally different word than wanting. Some persons ask me, Andrew, why, what compels you to do the things the way that you do? That golden rule: do unto others as you would want, have, desire, wish them to do unto you. But you got to plant it. Whether you trust it, whether you always giving it, whether you never get it back, trust the process. That's my opinion. That's my belief. That's my suggestion.
Love it. Brothers, I appreciate you all being here. For those of you that are tuned in, we don't discount the importance of your time. And so we appreciate you taking out, about an hour and a half to sit with us and talk about what we feel is a very important topic. Because if we can't connect as a people, we'll never be able to build the communities that we ultimately want. It starts with unity, and that starts with connection, which, as we learned today, starts with forgiveness. And so forgive yourself, forgive others, and reopen your ability to connect. I believe that's what I got out of the show. Before we go, I definitely would like everyone to let people know how to get a hold of you. And if you have anything going on that you'd like people to support, Mike, the Fit Pastor, I'll start with you. What do you have going on, and how can people support?
I am doing my best and has been very successful in lowering body fat and weight, and getting people in shape to help remove some of the basic nemesis that people have dealing with high blood pressure, chronic heart failure, and diabetes, etc. I get you in shape. I've been doing it for a long time, about 31 years now. And so if you're looking to get yourself in shape, in good condition, with somebody who cares and somebody who's been through just about every situation that they can be, and get you out of where you are right now, contact me at 816-916-3503, and I will help you along the way to get you in the best shape of your life.
I can vouch for him, one of the best trainers in the land. So get with him, Mike Patton, the fifth pastor. And before we wrap all this up, guys, I just need you for 5 minutes after this. 5 minutes after this. Lauren, what do you have going on and how can people support it?
Lojo Speaks, aka Lojo the Car Pro. You know, our way to take care of our livelihoods is obviously to get to work each and every day. You know, and all the other extracurricular activities as well. So if you are in need or know someone in need, let me be your new car care specialist. Not only will I help you get in the vehicle, but I will also educate you on how to protect your investment. Lojo the Car Pro, 816-405-9988. Looking forward to hearing from you.
All right. Andrew.
Beneath my name, you will see restin2050.org. I would challenge each and every one of you all to take the challenge like A.L. Johnson just did and go to that website, go to the Plant a Seed page and set your $10 and forget it monthly donation. Please, the year 2050 is going to get here. And if we don't plant something different, our children won't reap anything different. We don't plant something different, our children will actually be having this particular conversation, referencing some of the videos as informational sources, because they will be continuing this conversation if we don't do something different. And the only way we can do something different is we understand that we are the difference. Now be it, please.
Thank you. And I'm A.L. Johnson. My business is A.L. Johnson Life Insurance Agency. I help families protect themselves through the power of life insurance, and not just funerals, because we got to get away from that line of thinking, but generational wealth. Like Andrew said, it's really about planting a seed for the next generation. And so just imagine for a second if a seed had been planted for you and how different your life would be, how different our community would be. And so life insurance is an easy, guaranteed way to guarantee generational wealth. And there's nothing complicated about it. There's nothing that you have to learn. You just make a simple monthly payment. And so if you have any questions relating to life insurance, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, etc. Also, make sure that you follow the Elevating Men page for updates. We've got a lot coming up, calendars full for the next couple of weeks. And so, definitely make sure that you connect with that page. Andrew, I'm sorry.
Your video froze, and I don't know if mine was the only one, but say how they can contact you again, please.
Okay, that's aljohnsonlifeinsurance.com. You can also just Google A.L. Johnson Life Insurance Agency, and you can reach me there. Outside of that, I encourage each and every one of you, if you enjoyed this conversation, share it with someone else, because I'm sure they'll enjoy it as well. And again, if this conversation only stays between a few people, it isn't going to have the effect that it could. And so make sure that you're sharing it, not just sharing it, watch it with your friends, have the conversation, reach out to someone that you used to be connected with and rekindle that friendship or that relationship, because connections are important. Also go to the Elevating Men YouTube channel, because you can catch up on our archives. We've been having these conversations, whether you know it or not, for the past 2 years. We've talked about a little bit of everything, and all of the conversations have been productive and have helped me grow as a man, so I know that it can help you too. So again, that's Elevating Men. Check us out at YouTube, and you can also visit our website at elevatingmen.com. We will see you again next Monday at 8 p.m.